Chainsword Diaries is coming to you from Immortals Inc. Studios. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Chainsword Diaries. Today we got the whole crew coming in. We're continuing our walk through the game. We're going to be talking a little movement phase today, how to utilize that to your best advantage. First, let's talk about what we have going on this week. Do you have anything big going on 40K-wise?
No.
Bringing the people what they want. All right. That is the
I'm busy, people.
Yeah, all right.
No. Hey, Jeff, what do you got going on this week?
Really just painting Mechanicus. Never ending.
Yeah.
Keep going.
You had a little bit more going on than that. You threw down with Justin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the old battle report. Yeah, rough. I'm not coming out ahead on these close games. I lose them late, and just it hits you in the heart, man.
Yeah,
right to the ego.
Right to the ego. I know what you mean. Hey, just quick callback to last week. Justin did some really great stuff with command points that we didn't talk about.
That's true. Yeah, he was using it for the cards.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And with a army like that plays for the late game, that really ended up being the difference in the game.
Yeah.
It was well played. Well played.
Well,
Justin.
I just don't think it was. We talked about like using them early or using them saving them at the end. He used one every single turn to go through cards. So his thought was, I need to get to these good cards. So like, I felt that he was aggressive with them. It was just he was aggressively milling through his deck versus rolling or other things.
Right. Did he even use it for a reroll? I don't even recall it. Yeah.
No rerolls.
No. Straight just running through the cards. Yeah. That's why he scored those 3 cards in that one turn.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I did it right back to him though.
Yeah. No, you definitely got.
Well,
good
I definitely rolled plenty of ones. My trademark.
Yeah.
It definitely came into effect.
It got ugly. Yeah. I'm telling you, Jeff.
Honestly, though, if I had a couple, maybe not so many ones, maybe I had a chance. Maybe it could have gone the other way.
You know what?
I missed a couple charges.
It made a lot
missed
of sense when he was like, "You didn't go after this guy and break him out of synapse." So there, like I looking at it, just like watching it, and just like he really went at the strategy, and he thought he fumbled a few things, but you just didn't capitalize on them, so it saved him. So it was really interesting watching somebody that isn't us playing.
Right. Yeah.
It was really interesting watching someone who wasn't us playing. And that's what we're bringing to the table for you guys. If you're in the Northeast Ohio area and want to be on a battle report, or if you want to travel out and meet us, let us know.
Sure, yeah.
We'll definitely come to your table if you're within a reasonable drive and throw down some dice and bring the Chainsword Diaries experience to your town.
Yeah, we will. The meat train will come to you.
The meat train.
Gosh. The meat locker.
The meat locker.
The meat grinder will find you.
So you guys are laughing, but I'm going to guarantee that the 40K world is on my side here. I've got a vegan and a quasi-vegetarian because his girlfriend's vegetarian or vegan.
No, she's not. It's just meat's not
We
that
just
good
wanna
for
live
you.
long.
Yeah, meat's not that good for you.
Jeff, I've seen the way you roll. I don't know why you want to live that long, man. It's gonna continue.
Wow.
I know.
I mean,
Wow.
it was just funny.
I will roll ones until I'm 80 years
Right,
old. That's
right.
fine. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I accept that. I'm used to it at this point.
Build around it. Use that as a strength and not a weakness.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
If I got to find the models that don't die on ones and hit on ones, and I will be golden.
Yep.
Welcome to Slanesh.
Yeah. No. We just found it amusing. Because it's like TCD Mat, and then it was like TCD Meat, and then Grinder, and we just kept building it from there. Meat Man, yeah. I love it. So
I give you credit though. You're accepting it.
No shame in my game, man.
I respect it. I respect it.
No, I grew up with 5 brothers. You're gonna have to try a lot harder than that to make me feel anything. The pain is locked deep inside. There's a lot of shit that has gone down here, guys.
Oh my gosh.
So movement phase. Let's talk a little bit about that and what it means to the game. There are armies that really excel in the movement phase. You have your Eldar armies, Chaos now with Warp Time. G's Grey Knights that are able to kind of hop all over the table. And
That's psychic phase, though.
it's still movement.
guess.
It's mobility is mobility. How you're accessing that mobility is really secondary. And actually, we had one of our local players talk to us about conscripts moving 20 inches on some shenanigans. And orders are really way to go. But how do you guys look at the movement phase and using that to your best advantage?
You're first, G.
So I think the movement phase is the most valuable phase if you're not a psychic player. I think the movement phase is like the underrated phase of the game. You know, like the ones that are really the guys that I watch on YouTube and that are really good players that are known really know how to move first, and then the dice will just do the work. So even if you're rolling ones like you do, like there's still so many shots that like those, it's just not enough ones. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And that's so I try to mirror those guys when I move. You know, so now when I do play my knights, doesn't matter how I move them because like. Or one unit, I'm just like. In fact, I'm like, yeah, they're not gonna move yet. I just move them in psychic so I can gain.
I mean, look at our first one. You had Grandpa in the back.
He just chilled out. I was like, I'll move him later. So and maybe that's to a disadvantage. But like when I play those, but like let's say my other stuff, then I really want to utilize the movement phase because then the dice will take care of themselves. So yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm kind of weird in this game. I'm gonna go. Yeah.
Yep.
I have
in this game.
Okay. All right.
Kind of weird in my life. Go ahead.
You know what? I can accept that. I do things my own way. You know,
we're starting to toughen him up, G.
Yeah,
I think we broke him in week 2, and now he's able to handle a little bit more.
You know,
Or maybe he's all grown up.
I recognize that.
He got on the meat jokes pretty well with me, so that's when I knew he was in.
So for the fans keeping score at home, Jeff gets on the meat pretty well. That's what we're hearing here.
No,
that is exactly what was just
terrible.
Said.
No,
just said.
that is awful. It's horrible. No, I will not be associated with meats of any kind. That's ridiculous.
That's Matt.
That's Matt. Matt is Mr. Meat.
Matt is Mr. Meat.
Meatosaurus Rex.
Every Friday night.
Oh, gosh.
For the ladies.
All right, back to the movement phase,
Yeah,
folks.
back to the movement. We're just going to talk about that M for a while. Movement.
So, like, it goes back to, like, I have, like, a plan for every unit. Like, I have, like, and again, like, you know, I will say, like, you know, when my opponent does certain things, it's not like, well, I'm doing this. I already planned this. It's like, no, I will react still. Like, you know, it's not always set what I'm going to do, but I have, like, certain units. The way I build my list, I have a little bit of everything. So I have units that I'm like, oh, these guys are bouncing around the table. They have that high movement. That's why I take bikes. It's like I can get across the table quick, so I can get to that objective. Maybe not get it to this turn, but that objective back in the corner, I'll get it to next turn, or you know, a turn after. Whereas if I'm only playing foot slogging guys, now again, you have the advantage with Grey Knights. You can just toss them somewhere.
Yeah.
But like I need to have that balance because I don't have that Gate of Infinity. So I have certain units that I'm using to move around a lot. There's some units that I don't even ever move because it's a Devastator squad or a tank or a Dune Crawler. It's like that I don't want to move. That's just long range popping shots. Then I have other stuff that moves if needed. You know, if they need to move here to capture objective or if they need to move to maybe engage another unit. It's like I'm not extremely mobile. I'm gonna go with that. I have a few units that are zipping around, but most of my force is kind of, maybe they'll move, maybe they won't, kind of a thing. So.
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And when you're playing Tau, that really makes sense.
Yeah, it's like I don't move. I like move at all. Literally, I have this line, and they're just standing
skip that phase completely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going straight to psychic. I mean shooting.
Yeah. Skip 2 phases. Right. It's all good.
They don't even get the psychic phase ever.
It's economy. And if they can avoid the assault phase, that'd be nice too.
I know, it's true. My games with Tau, even if I play like 2,000 points, like they go quick because it's like I literally have one phase.
So my movement phase, I do a little bit of what Jeff's talking about. I tend to have a mobile part of my army and a area denial part of my army. So it goes beyond just being long range shooting. I tend to use things like poxwalkers, or if I'm playing orcs, orc boys, or grots, or things of that nature that are going to deny an area to my opponent, not because they're the toughest thing, the biggest, baddest thing on the blocks. It's literally 30 models that you're going to have to take off the board before you're able to get within 9 inches if you're going to be deep striking or whatever the case may be. And if you do decide to come over and assault, you're going to be tied up in an endless amount of bodies. And then I have my mobile parts that are kind of going from threat to threat to threat, and advancing towards those strategic points, like if we're playing Maelstrom, the objectives, or if you're playing something like area denial where you need to capture the area, I'm moving that portion of my army. Again, it ties back into I like to minimize the decisions that I have to make. So I just have that kind of mobile pod. Less is more. Less is more.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so is there a philosophy that you follow, or is there like, how do you best use the movement phase? And then let's not talk about specific armies, because I actually do not want to talk about Grey Knights. Like let's just talk about the actual game itself more. For those guys that are not playing these specific armies, like is there a philosophy that you guys follow, or is there something that you used to do in 7th and don't do anymore now in the movement phase? Is it really that different from 7th?
Well, first off, yes, it's absolutely different than 7th, because
So how's it different?
the big thing that's different from 7th is the absence of Death Stars. Yes, there are hard to kill units, but the fact that there was something that you are not going to be able to take off the table and you really couldn't engage with whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was able to create almost a quarter of the table that you didn't want to interact with whatsoever. So by having these hard rock units rather than hordes, you were able to deny complete areas and really take somebody out of the game just by placing this unkillable unit wherever.
This is a
you want.
model that you're talking
It could be a
No,
model.
it's
It could be
it's usually
as much
a
as
combo of units.
yeah, a combo of anywhere
Okay.
from
So this is
2
a term.
to
This is a term that they use
Death
for
Star.
something.
Death Star. Yeah,
Okay,
the
for
Death
some-
Star.
So it's not a literal model. It's something that you made out of like comboing units or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah,
and
there's
then-
Screamer Star, Wolf Star, Space Marine Star,
Biker Star.
What's the
Okay.
space? Gosh, I can't think of it.
Super Friends.
Super Friends.
Yeah.
There we
Okay,
go. It's
so
just a
but
bunch of independent
these are,
characters.
Okay, and then they made so those things stopped your opponent from moving, or I guess you would just deny.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It's not so much that it stopped, but it was absolutely worthless to go towards
go
them.
there.
So
Well, then you don't go there. You know?
Yeah.
Just keep off the yard and
that's
Stay
right.
off my
no
lawn.
trespassing sign. You
Yeah,
just
that's
didn't
right.
go there. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think a big thing different in this edition, outside of no Death Stars, is there's so many different. There's no limit to movement stats anymore. Like,
yeah.
you know, like not everything only like all infantry doesn't go 6. It's some go 5, some can go 9, some can go 12. You know, depending on what you got. So it really changes the dynamic. It's definitely different. Although I will say, being again how weird I am, this hasn't totally changed my. You
So
know,
you
I
played
still
the
follow
movement the same.
for the most part. Like
Okay.
there's definitely different things I'll do because like I have advantages with more movement speed for certain models. Like maybe I'll use them to move around further, faster, kind of a
Okay.
thing. But for the
Was,
most part, it doesn't change.
Was advancing the same as
No, it was
No, it
running
was-
and it was in the shooting phase.
it
You
was
could
in-
either shoot or run.
Okay, so then like everybody only moved X number of inches, period, and now it's like some guys.
Yeah,
move
well,
4,
every
some
mod
move
it
6.
was basically built on unit type. So unit type had a set amount. So like infantry was 6. Well, most things in the game was 6.
6,
But then there were fast vehicles could go 12. Flyers they had to go 18 to something, 18 to
Depending on the flyer,
Yeah,
it
I guess
changed.
that's
There were,
true.
yeah, there were all sorts of rules.
And it was very very
But
set.
it's by the unit, not by
Right.
the
Unit
motto.
type, yeah,
Yeah,
not even the
or
faction,
type,
yeah.
type,
yeah.
oh.
Well, no,
I
because
guess there was like Eldar jet bikes.
Yeah.
Eldar jet bikes.
Eldar
were
48 inch
specific-
movement. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
But and then you look at another thing that's kind of changed in 8th is with the movement going down to the individual model, you have the ability to, you have the differentiation of what a
flexibility.
mobile army really is. A mobile army can be as simple as somebody who has a 6-inch move in ready availability, because now that Space Marines aren't a base 6-inch move anymore, that makes a difference. That makes a big difference that Dark Eldar get to move
Attack
6.
squads are, but I mean, like
You're right.
Terminators are 5 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Centurions, I think, are 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this, and this might be off topic, but I know that templates are gone, but they played a big part last edition.
They did.
And movement was affected. So, do you think templates would be? Should they kept them? Now that the movement phase is different, or?
I don't know. Like,
I'm gonna let you sound off because I have a really strong opinion on this.
I kind of like the fact that templates are gone. Like, I think it's a cool idea. I just think it was hard in the tabletop because there were certain guns that, certain weapons that didn't have the template, which made them so much better. And I guess I'm talking mostly about the scatter ones, the blast.
Right.
Now, you could argue that flame template was really dope because you could get a ton of models underneath it, and depending on what flame template you were using, you could just incinerate stuff.
It's just funny. I only ask because, people are like, oh, I can move like this now because there's no templates. And
That's true.
That,
Yeah.
Guys say that, and I was like, well, I don't know the difference. So,
Again, this is something that I believe is strongly a strength of 8th edition. And as somebody whose main opponent was Tyranids for years, you're talking movement phases where somebody was very carefully keeping that 2-inch range between 120 to 140 models, and movement phases would take a half hour.
Okay.
We'd play 6-hour games at 1,500 points. And that's a marathon. Yeah, it's rough. And luckily he had the Frankenstein table that he could crank up to the top of the garage, so we could just hit pause and finish the game later. But I tell you, that is one of the strong points of 8th in the fact that because you're not thinking about movement, you're thinking about more strategic things like how can I get my unit into cover. You don't have to worry about when you get your unit into cover if you're bunching them up, because there is no ability to just punish somebody for that. And you get the layered in a strategy of moving a unit in front of a character to keep your character safe so that your character can't get sniped out, and utilizing those forces and making sure that where the movement used to be what your position was in regards to the individual model, it's now more concentrated on what I think 40K really is, which is a unit-based game and not a model-based game.
I also think, too, one of the things is it's one less chance of a dispute.
Absolutely.
Because you use a scatter dice and then you measure how. That's the one thing I hated too. Because those guns, they weren't a sure thing. Now this edition, it's they're usually resolved into a D3 shot thing or a D6 shot mechanism, which I like that because there's still variability in it. But then you still have a chance, okay, it hits and it can wound instead of it scattered off and it missed everything and it's that was useless, Yeah. So I totally feel that. And plus, again, less of an argument.
Yeah, I only asked because, like I said, people are like, well, I could do this now because there's no template. So it's just, and I figured it was a big part of the movement phase before, so that's why I asked.
It absolutely is.
Well, then also too is. I guess characters can't really join units anymore, but the whole you don't have to take out the first model when it gets wounded kind of a thing, because that used to be the closest model is the one that dies, regardless of, you know what I mean? You can't pick unless it was a character you could look out, sir, or stuff like that. But now it makes it a little more, it's not as
front load your heavy assault weapons rather than putting them at the back of the unit and having to figure out how to slingshot them into combat.
Right.
Those are all slingshot, Death Star. Those are all terms that you don't have to deal with. That used to be something that you really had to figure out how to work.
7th edition was definitely a different beast for sure.
Yeah,
I'm glad I didn't play it.
Yeah,
I didn't mind it.
I mean, not for any negative reason, but I think I came at the right time. I think 8th is pretty awesome, and overall, I think people like it a lot, and I like it. Okay, what
So another thing that we need to talk about with movement is how to utilize movement to best mitigate the range of your weapons. There are weapons that are mid-range weapons that you have to think about things as a threat range. The Humble Bolter, for example, everybody looks and they see 24 inches, and that's how far your guy can shoot. Well, realistically, in the hands of a Space Marine, you're looking at a 30-inch weapon, and you need to look at that for what is on the table, what can I affect with this 30-inch range, and how can I best play that versus what the what the actual game status is that's going on. Do I need to shoot this unit more, or do I need to get to this objective more? And those are all decisions that you need to weigh heavily within the movement phase, and part of the decision-making process that are going to help you make or break being a good 40K player. Like you were mentioning before, G, really the difference between great 40K players and people who win local tournaments are, not that there's anything wrong with that, because I'm that guy.
You won a local tournament?
I used to win local tournaments in California all the time. All the time. I can hold it down. I can hold it down.
Okay, go ahead.
But no, the difference between that is finding those people who understand how to utilize the movement phase.
Movement phase, yeah. I do think that.
I was gonna say, believe it or not,
separator.
I've placed second in a few local tournaments.
Oh
so.
my god!
Yeah,
right.
I know. So
you would have won if it wasn't for your ones.
Yeah,
you would have just won the event.
I didn't notice my ones as much back then. I think now that
there aren't two other guys pointing them
yeah,
out.
It's like one. And then now it makes me realize, like, oh my gosh, I just rolled 7 ones in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the movement phase is very, very important. And it's funny when I look at my guns in the bolter, I don't think about it until I'm like, can I move into rapid fire range? That is when I start paying attention to the movement gun, that mental process. Because if I'm 20 inches out, it's just one shot. Sometimes I don't even care about that shot. You go after the objective. But if I can get on the objective and then still move and get that rapid fire, then that's a whole, that's where my money's at. That's where I want to be.
Yeah. I guess I'm very weird. It goes back. I have a plan and I try to execute it. So literally, like, my movement I plan out my movement depending on where I deployed my stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I plan it out so, like, I get, like, so, like, my guys have certain range. It's like, all right, I'm going to put them here because I can get into range with their guns by turn 1, turn 2, or wherever to make them the most effective. Like, it's all planned. I'm extremely plan-oriented in this game.
Okay. So off of that, Jeff, do you find yourself being uncomfortable playing Maelstrom? Because it is something that's going to change with your plan so much every round.
Tell me where the Maelstrom touched you.
Oh my gosh.
Are you uncomfortable? That just sounded so funny. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Actually, no. Like I guess it's part of my plan. Like, I plan for it. It's like I plan, I'm definitely going to get cards that I know I'm not going to achieve. So it's like, how do I plan for the ones that I know I can make sure that I definitely achieve, I guess, is kind of a thing.
But then, like, you take in bikes, so that means you're thinking about going the distance. Like, I know the advantage of them because you get to travel so far, but like I don't play them, so I'm like, well, I am not going to go after those objectives unless I deep strike. Like, you use your bikes to get there, I use my deep strike to get there. Like, that, to me, actually, that's probably something we should talk about, is the deep strike being part of the movement phase, because that comes at the end of the movement phase. So, and I think it's super valuable. So,
sure,
so that's why I'm like, yeah, you're still taking your bikes, but, like, can't you just take a Terminator and drop them there instead?
I guess, like, I don't have that as many Terminator squads as you do. So, like, I normally don't have as much deep strike as you do. So, literally, I like to use my deep strike. Yeah, maybe, like, if, like, I really needed to get, an objective or something, maybe I'd think about it. But honestly, I use my Terminators as my, like, Swiss Army knife. So, like, I use them to do damage. So, like, when I use that deep strike, it's like I'm putting them in a position where I can do some, like, serious damage, or do something that I need to having done.
Okay.
I don't use it as a placement mechanism.
So you're not using it as part of the movement phase. You're looking at
as a tactical advantage.
Okay.
Yeah, because, like, think about it though. Because, like, if I drop my Terminators in the backfield, I can't move them ever again. That's the other thing. Like, I can't.
You move them into combat. You move them on top of that. You score that point, and then.
But if that point's in the backfield and their army's gone or out of there, it's like, that's a waste. That's a 270 point unit. That's a waste, man. Like, you can at least gate your stuff around. So I get that.
So if they're not killing something, then
I paid 270 points for damage, man.
To score that secure objective X.
270 points for 1 point, and then they don't do anything. That's
I mean, I don't know. They
It
can
all
start
depends.
walking.
Yeah, it all depends on.
I guess it depends. Like,
Right.
yeah, if there's stuff near it, but it's like if it's not, like that's not my focus with them. Is like I'm trying to leverage them. They're supposed to be in the thickest of the thick, man. They're Terminators, man. Tactical dreadnought armor.
Deep in that meat, huh? Just deep in there.
Why am I getting the meat jokes when I'm?
No. I specifically did look at Matt when I said. Okay, so Matt, let's talk about moving your meat and
Goodness gracious.
the deep
It's
strike.
gonna be that kind of party. Pass the mashed potatoes. Hey, no, it's not just about deep strike. Another key tool that people need to recognize is a great movement piece, and something that is near and dear to my heart as a Slanesh player is summoning demons. Summoning demons, especially fast-moving demons like Seekers, and layering it with something like Warp Time, which gives them the ability to come in, drop up to 6 inches away from the summoner. Then the summoner's usually a psyker for me, and I'm able to cast Warp Time on that unit, and then they're able to move 12 to 14 inches, depending on the unit that I'm summoning. That gives me a huge threat range off of that single character. And I've seen successful armies that are able to deploy just a single character and really just feed out demons over and over through that as the movement phase.
Yeah.
So I guess in essence, it's not specifically deep strike, but it's still birthing those models onto that spot during the movement phase. And see, that's what I look at. Like when they're deploying, I was like, all right, it looks like I can go there. That objective is open there, and I can, So that's how. Now, is that how you look at it? Also, like now, let's remove the combat aspect. Let's just focus on the movement.
Right.
Like, is that you're like, all right, so I can spit these demons out here, and then they can start, taking
Yeah,
over.
it's not necessarily just about the ability to move 18 to 20 inches towards an enemy. It's 18 to 20 inches where I want that unit to be.
Right.
And there are armies that can do that. You can do that kind of similar mechanic, bringing Necrons back with their regeneration or resurrection, or Tervagons spawning gaunts. You can create movement without actually moving, just by placing models that weren't necessarily there on the table.
That's fair.
And in addition to the movement that I'm getting, I've now also created the element of surprise, something that you don't know where I'm going to put these units. I have characters in 3 different areas on the board. It can come from the left, it can come from the middle, it can come from the right.
I think that's a big advantage, especially for deep strike heavy armies. You don't know where they're going to be. You don't know what's going to happen. And also, again, like it's your army, Grey Knights, like they can get a free deep strike per turn, another one, you know what I mean? So it's really like super element of surprise because you're constantly zipping around the table.
Yeah, that's why I don't like to use them as my examples.
Right,
to talk,
it's an extreme example.
They break the rules, and like I love them, but like that's why I like talking about the other armies. So what you were saying, because I do like that. Moving the models without moving, I do that with my apothecary because they just have to be in coherency with the rest of the unit, and then like he'll bring back a dude, and then that actually brings me up 2 inches closer to some place, and I saw a Necron player like, all right, these models are back, and as long as they're in coherency, he was like slightly moving up towards my Land Raider. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. So those little. It's not cheating, I guess, but it's just like I don't know
it's understanding the rules.
It's using the rules.
It
right,
feels like cheating to an army that doesn't have access to that rule.
Yeah.
But using Gate of Infinity is not cheating. It's playing Grey Knights.
Yeah.
And summoning Tervagons or Termagants is not cheating. It's playing Tyranids.
Yeah. So, and I think that is actually, it's like I said, it's a good way to separate the men's from the boys in 40K.
All right.
It really gives that advantage. And then you have the armies out there that we haven't really touched base on. None of us play them, but my son plays a lot of Dark Eldar. And you have the ability to use the movement phase to completely change your deployment. Because you have such high mobility, you're able to lure someone into a slow-moving army into an area and completely abandon that area while retaining the ability to fire on an enemy. And And those high mobility armies are able to lure in the movement phase, which is something that a lot of armies don't have the tactical ability to do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like, man, I completely forgot about all that. Like, yeah, they can.
They're coming.
They're
coming.
That's a
You're
good.
not-
We're going, right? They're coming or going.
That's a good analogy though. The way they can totally transform the table just by all their stuff moves fast. I mean, outside of maybe like Wraithguard or something,
Right.
but like most of their stuff is
Actually, I like
zipping
that
around
idea
the table.
that if you misdeploy, their
You can
movement phase is
redeploy.
so good.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, I'll get out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that's actually kind of cool. You
Yeah.
know, that's an advantage to that. Yeah, like so I didn't think about that. The movement phase can help you if you deployed incorrectly or you did lure your opponent in. You can, you know, just swing around them and get them from behind.
Yeah.
That's why. I mean, that's why deployment's almost like your first original movement phase. You could
Right.
argue because I mean, at least for me, it sets up how I move my models for the rest of the game.
Yep.
So
Yep. I think that's deploying is a crucial part of the game, and same thing with movement. I think those once you master those two, I think you can roll ones like
like me.
you can fail your charges like Matt, and you're still gonna win because you're still winning other parts of the game.
Listen, son, you could be just like me. Just like me.
It happened on the stream today. I was able to mitigate. So I failed 2 significant charges, lost
Sure.
all 3 demon princes and typhus,
Oh my god.
and won 10-7 because I was able to move and use my distraction units.
Yeah.
To-
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to touch on too. I guess maybe it's a little off topic, but also with my Terminators, when I deep strike those are usually like a fire magnet. So it allows me to move all of my other stuff around. Like I can move my bikes across the table
Yep.
without getting shot at instead of.
That's why I'm okay if they don't take if they land and they score me points that turn and then they die like that. I'm okay with that. That's why you're like, oh no, they got to kill something. I'm like,
That's their
"Alright."
purpose.
It's a third of my army though, points wise.
Like
Termicide armies are still a thing. It's
I
something
know,
that's been
but-
around.
they're gonna die, so let them
know they're
die
gonna
while
die,
other
but-
things are. I just
It's a transference of points.
yeah. I know that. Like I think like so. Then maybe it'll be a different podcast, but we
It
can
will.
talk about how many points and are equivalent to scoring a point in Maelstrom.
Ooh, that's a
Because
good study.
that, I mean,
Yeah.
and that's a little deep, and it might be,
Well, that'll definitely
we'll ask
be.
the meat man how deep we want to go. on that.
This water's cold and deep. No, but
yeah,
that's masterclass kind of
yeah,
topic.
yeah, that might be, in the future we'll talk about that.
Fair enough.
Well, guys, I feel like we've gotten to the point that we've moved through all of our topic here today. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
got it.
Dad jokes for
Boom.
days.
I'm here all week, folks.
That's right. Remember to
meat
tip your
man.
waitress.
Mr. Meats. TCD Meaty McMeterson is here.
Man of the meats.
Yeah.
Man of the meats.
The man, the myth, the meat. TCD Matt. All right.
That's right. Hey guys, so summing up, the movement phase is something that you really want to try and improve your play on. Keep in mind some of the tactics and the philosophies that we talked about today. Are you using your movement phase for extra range on your weapons? Are you using it to get into double tap range? Are you using it to claim objectives? Are you using it to deny areas? These are all things that you can do within the movement phase to bring your game to the next level.
Yeah, and like I said, the movement phase, the reason it's the most important is because your opponent, he can't roll dice to stop your
You can't
movement
deny
phase.
your
He can't
movements.
deny it, so you
Yeah.
get to move, so that's why it's a crucial thing to get right and elevate your game a little.
And I also, one parting thought is, I usually, I see people a lot of times, they don't use the movement phase, but they'll sometimes be like, oh, I'm not sure if I should move anything, so I don't move anything at all. Sometimes, certain models, you get 6 inches a turn, it's you maybe best case you're getting 30-inch movement for some models. It's
Yep.
you need to move something, or you need to keep moving some models.
Yep.
You got to, especially in Maelstrom, to get over the board. So really use the movement phase to actually move models. You got to be moving at least something a turn.
Yep.
Definitely.
Next week, we're going to be talking about the psychic phase. And G's has been looking forward to this for weeks. This is his second shooting phase, Haven.
I mean, I believe it's called the smite phase.
The smite phase.
That's why I don't want to talk about Grey Knights until then, because it's like
What's
they do
the point?
everything good. It's like
It's just true. They aren't
Yeah,
bad.
it's like
Like,
they're just good
good
at
at
everything.
psychic, good at movement, good at shooting, good at fighting. Like, good at morale. Like, man.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why you only get to bring 2. So,
That's all I need.
all right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Jeff, why don't you take us out?
I roll 1, so you don't have to.
Chainsword Diaries is coming to you from Immortals Inc. Studios.